This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Yunxiao sneered and said sarcastically, "I will go to the gathering of the heroes, but you are not a hero, so you don't have to go. Stay here forever." He changed the seal in his hand, and the power of the sword formation radiated out. Not only did it trap Ugly, but it also turned into a sea of swords that slashed toward Baiming Junjin. His left hand took out the sunset cloud treasure mirror again, and a beam of mirror light shot out, directly freezing Baiming Junjin, who was about to break open the mirror and leave. Ugly was a martial sovereign of the 9 heavens, but he was as slow as a snail when Yunxiao used the twilight cloud mirror. Baiming Junjin was only a 9 stars martial supreme, so he could barely move. Looking at the sky full of sword light, Baiming Junjin was shocked and cried out in horror, "No, don't kill me. My father is the Dark North Duanju, and my big brother is Dark North Lifeng. Won't they be angry if you kill me?" All the begging and threats ended up in a miserable scream. 10,000 sword rays pierced through Baiming Junjin's body, and a blue armor appeared. It only lasted for a moment before it was broken. The sword rays entered his body and cut him into a sieve in the air. His flesh and blood were a mess. He couldn't be more dead. Plop. The completely dead Baiming Junjin fell from the sky, landing on the ground and bleeding profusely. He had completely turned into a pile of mud. You really killed him?" Wen Lin sucked in a breath of cold air and felt his entire body turn cold. His eyes widened and he said in horror, "You really dare to kill the young master of the Baiming family?" Yunxiao raised his head and said coldly, "He wanted to kill me, and if I didn't kill him, wouldn't I be an idiot? I can kill anyone who wants to kill me. Let alone young master Dark North, even if your father Dark North were to come, he would still die." When Wen Lin heard these remarks, he was so frightened that he retreated several steps. Even among the 7 superpowers, Baiming Dark Palace was one of the top forces. They had always been the ones bullying others, and no one had ever dared to bully them. What Yunxiao said was right. Since Baiming Junjin was going to kill him, wouldn't he be a fool if he didn't return the favor? But if you kill him, you'll still die. He swallowed his saliva and said bitterly. "Who knows?" Yunxiao snorted coldly. "Who knows who will die and who will not? But I only know that anyone who wants to kill me must die. Baiming Dark Palace is like this, and even the Saint Realm by and is no exception." He was implying something, and his eyes were shining like stars. He looked straight at Wen Lin, as if he wanted to see through him inside out. Wen Lin was so shocked that his entire body trembled. He once again took a few steps back, but he was still unable to suppress the chill in his heart. A voice in his heart was madly shouting, as expected, "He read my memories. Lunatic, this person was truly a lunatic. He's dead. Young Master Junjin is dead." Ugly was in a daze within the sword formation. He didn't even notice the lightning that started to fall from the sky. He only felt that everything was a dream. The high and mighty young master of the Baiming family, the future overlord of the region, was actually like mud in his eyes. And just a few hours ago, when Wen Lin first came to find them, they were still drinking wine in the brothel, admiring the flowers, the moon, and the autumn fragrance. Before young master left, he even asked the brothel keeper to gather all the top girls in the nearby brothels together, waiting for him to pamper them. How could they become mud in the blink of an eye? Yunxiao looked up at the dusky sky and cursed in his heart. The commotion was too great, and if he did not end the battle quickly, it would definitely attract the attention of the Imperial Army of Red Moon City. A murderous look flashed in his eyes as he quickly changed the incantation gesture in his hand. The light of the 9 swords immediately grew brighter, and a different symbol emerged on each sword, exuding a different aura. "Old freak, what are you doing? The young master is dead." In the distance, the vulgar man who was fighting with Luo Qingyun was also greatly shocked. He looked in horror at the mud-like corpse on the ground, the deader-than-dead Dark North Junjin. He was immediately frightened out of his wits and began to curse and roar, "If the young master is killed, you and I will not be able to escape death either."
Ah!
He roared crazily and immediately went berserk. The battle axe in his hand slashed at Luo Qingyun's body with all his might. The air was constantly blown up, and Luo Qingyun immediately fell into a dangerous situation. He struggled to hold on for a while, but was forced to retreat in defeat. The uncouth roar also woke Ugly from his daze and made him roar again and again. They were almost doomed to die this time. Raising their big drinking sabers, they slashed at Yunxiao with bloodshot eyes and said in a miserable rage, "You cut off our way out. I'll kill you even if I die." Yunxiao's face turned cold as he said indifferently, "You speak so righteously, but don't forget who wanted to kill who first? If you want to kill someone, you have to be prepared to be killed. Don't regret it only when you die." Yunxiao pointed a finger at the sky and cried out, "Sword formation of the 9 luminaries star." The 9 long swords suddenly moved and formed a sword talisman in the air, crazily killing everything in the array. Then, the thunder fell and blasted into the sword array, refining the swords and all the living things inside. Ugly raised his big knife and could block a few sword lights at first, but as the sword chi continued to strengthen, it finally broke his knife momentum and cut into his body. He screamed again and again, and finally, with a few thunderbolts, he was directly turned into ashes, not even leaving mud. After Yunxiao's sword formation had successfully killed the enemy, his eyes suddenly turned to Wenlin, who was not far away with a pale face, and he said in a cold voice, "It's your turn." Wenlin's face was deathly pale, but he still pretended to be calm and said, "Let me go, I didn't see anything today." Yunxiao said, "I think dead people are better at keeping secrets." Wenlin said bitterly, "You and I can be considered acquaintances. From the moment you entered the Red Moon City, I've provided you with all kinds of selfless help. As soon as I entered Red Moon City, you cheated me of primordial stones, dragged me into an evil cult, and sold me to collect membership fees." Yunxiao interrupted him. "What a cruel act it is for an outsider like me, who is unfamiliar with this place. And you still have the face to mention it." Wenlin felt bitter in his heart and could only say, "You also know that I'm from the Sacred Zone. The Sacred Zone is the commander-in-chief of the world, so how about you give me some face? I dared to kill the people of Red Moon City and Beiming Dark Palace in front of you." Yunxiao snorted coldly. "I have no intention of letting you go." Wenlin knew that there was no point in saying anything more, and an extreme struggle appeared in his eyes. His face gradually became distorted, and he said fiercely, "Good. You forced me to do this. If I insist on leaving, you won't be able to trap me with your ability. However, this move has damaged me too much, and I can't recover in a short time. I don't want to use it unless it's absolutely necessary." "Oh?" Yunxiao's face flashed with surprise as he said, "I really can't think of any way you can escape with your life." A mocking sneer appeared on Wenlin's face, and he said, "You've said before that the world's martial arts are as vast as the ocean, and there's no end to them." He suddenly made a strange posture and then let out a loud shout, his face filled with extreme pain. Rays of light were released from his body, and his body immediately became 5-colored. Yunxiao's pupils constricted. Wenlin's posture at the moment was extremely ugly, but it shocked him greatly, because it was one of the postures in the upper part of the tyrant body tempering technique. As the light continued to flow out, it was as if the seal in his body had been broken. Wenlin's entire body began to change. Long hair grew from his originally smooth skin, and his face began to turn uglier. His eyes turned dark green, and his body continued to grow longer and longer, turning into a fierce beast similar to an ape. "This? Demonized?" Yunxiao looked shocked as he shook his head and murmured, "No, it's not demonic transformation. Although the effect is similar, this state is much more powerful than the demonic transformation state. Also, this monkey is emitting a pressure that makes people's heart palpitate. It seems to come from the ancient times. This monkey is definitely an extraordinary demonic beast." Roar. A murderous look flickered in the ape's eyes as it pounced at Yunxiao. The earth trembled and shook as it stomped on the ground, stirring up a towering cloud of dust that quickly covered the ape's body and condensed into an earth armor. An ape's fist the size of a clay pot came crashing down, Yunxiao was shocked, but he did not panic. The last way to deal with such a heavy attack was to dodge, not meet it head-on. However, there was an indescribable pressure on the other party's body, which directly shocked the space. It was completely different from the Emperor Qi of the Nine Heavens, but its effect was not weaker than the Emperor Qi. How troublesome. Yunxiao's eyes flickered with a strange look as a hammer appeared in his hand, its surface flickering with lightning. He let out a soft cry and turned his body into lightning as well. He continued to expand and turned into a big fatty in the sky. He was the same size as the ape. He raised his warhammer high and smashed down. Boom, boom, boom. Under his control, the warhammer became the size of the fist. It brought with it endless lightning and smashed directly on the ape's fist. It burst out with powerful lightning and instantly turned the sky into a lightning hell. Awoo. The sound of bones cracking came from the ape's fist. Apparently, it was injured by the hammer. It was wailing in pain. The thunder and lightning in the sky kept bombarding its body, giving off green smoke and roaring. After Yunxiao's attack, the hammer disappeared into his body, and he fell from the air while constantly controlling various ninth-tier mystic artifacts. At this moment, all his primordial qi had been consumed. His face was pale, and he was gasping for breath. What's wrong with this monkey? It's like a demon transformation. Yunxiao was filled with suspicion as he watched the ape gradually struggle out of the prison of thunder, its eyes still red. The ape revealed a resentful look and stared at him fiercely, as if it wanted to remember this face. Then, it roared and stretched out its hands, pulling violently in front of it. It actually tore the sky apart, and its entire huge body instantly disappeared into it. This buy-in. Cold sweat broke out on Yunxiao's forehead. He did not expect Wen Lin to run away just like that. Unless he released his two disciples or the Calabash King Kong, there was really no good way to keep him here. But, with Luo Qingyun here, he did not want to expose more. The ape was injured, and it looked like its mind had become savage. It did not look like Wen Lin at all, and it would take a long time to recover. Wen Lin had also said that this move was extremely harmful to him, so he would probably not be able to find trouble with him for a short time. At this moment, on the other side of the battle, Luo Qingyun and Vulgar were fighting fiercely. But when he saw Baiming Junjin and Ugly die, and Wen Lin escape in the form of a monkey, Vulgar was greatly shocked. And with Yunxiao coldly watching from the side, he knew that he would not be able to escape today. For a moment, he was disheartened and lost all hope. The qi in his hand gradually weakened. Luo Qingyun's spear hit his heart and directly exploded into a large cloud of blood mist. He was sent flying dozens of meters away and died. Luo Qingyun panted heavily. His face was covered in sweat. He still could not believe that he had defeated a martial supreme. He stood there in a daze with his spear raised. With a flick of his finger, Yunxiao shot out a stream of flame, burning all the corpses on the ground into ashes. Even their weapons were melted in an instant. Leave this place immediately. The commotion just now was too big. I'm afraid that the people of the Red Moon City are on their way. As expected, it'll be too late if we don't leave now. His expression changed slightly as he smiled. Luo Qingyun came back to his senses and said, "Where to?" Yunxiao's pupils constricted slightly as he said, "Whatever, you go first. We'll meet in the Wind and Moon building 2 days later. They're already here, so I'll hold them off for a while." Luo Qingyun seemed to want to say something, but when he thought of Yunxiao's strength, which was already much stronger than him, the joy of defeating a martial emperor was instantly gone. He sighed and said, "Take care." With that, he turned into a long green dragon and flew away. "Humph, you want to run after causing trouble?" Suddenly, a cold snort came from the sky, and an extremely sharp ray of light chased after Luo Qingyun. With a calm face, Yunxiao raised the Great Sorrow Evening Cloud Mirror in his hand and shone it. The mirror light immediately chased after the light and locked it in the air, revealing the figure of an old man. "What? What is this light?" The old man looked at the light around him in bewilderment. The circulation of his essence force was hindered, and Luo Qingyun had already disappeared in an instant. If he escapes, you'll have to stay. Although the old man's origin energy was blocked by the mirror light, he was still able to rush down very quickly. He stared coldly at Yunxiao as he gathered his aura and pressed down on him. Clearly, his cultivation base was above that of the uncouth and ugly man. Yunxiao chuckled. He immediately turned the mirror around and shone it on himself, then disappeared from where he was and reappeared 100 meters away in the next moment. After that, he circulated his spiritual power and teleported again, transforming his body into a thunderbolt and fleeing. This buy-in. The old man was stunned. He had never thought that the other party would be able to escape from him so easily. Doubt appeared in his eyes as he mumbled to himself, "That mirror is so magical. I wonder what its origin is." The escape technique that this kid used to escape seemed to be turning his body into lightning. But, if you are not a direct descendant of the Jiang family, you must have the strength of a 9-stars martial supreme to be qualified to practice it. That young man obviously didn't recognize it. Perhaps it is an escape technique similar to turning his body into lightning. A moment later, several rays of light fell one by one and surrounded him. "Elder Shaoyuan, what's going on?" one of them asked. Jiang Shaoyuan snorted coldly, "There were people fighting." The traces of the fight showed that it was a group fight. Their cultivation levels are quite high. You guys go around and see if there are any clues. Yes. The man answered. Then, the dozen or so people began to search the surroundings. All the bodies and weapons had been burned to ashes by Yunxiao's true phoenix fire, leaving only some ashes behind. They searched for a long time but found nothing. Jiang Shaoyuan had no choice but to withdraw his troops. After turning into a bolt of lightning and fleeing hundreds of miles away, Yunxiao gradually revealed his true body and walked into the city. He turned around for a long time. After making sure that no one was following him, he chose the right direction again, bought a new south-pointing chariot, and went to the ice organization's territory. He had to meet Jiang Ruame before the gathering of the heroes. After an hour, the south-pointing chariot finally reached its destination. He immediately hid in the void and waited for Jiang Ruame's arrival. Every movement in the entire base was under his divine sense. There were only a few existences in the Ice Cube organization who did odd jobs. It seemed that all of them had gone out again, and he had no idea what they were doing. Very quickly, the members of the organization returned listlessly. All of them were dejected, and many of them were injured. Sigh, I failed the mission again. Since the establishment of the organization, we've done more than a dozen missions of all sizes. Except for that time when we helped the goddess snatch a young and beautiful servant girl, none of us have succeeded. What a blow. Cough, cough, cough. I heard that the servant girl we snatched last time was seen in boss's courtyard several times. I don't know if it's true or not. Shush. Don't talk nonsense, you don't want your life. Last time, someone in the organization questioned boss and big sister Snowball's authority. The next day, that person's body was found in the manure pit in the yard. The man wiped his sweat and said, "That's fucking terrifying. If it wasn't for my obsession to see the goddess, I would have left the organization long ago. It's easy to enter, but hard to leave." Last time, someone wanted to leave the organization, but one of his feet was found in the grass the next day. The rest of his body was missing, and I haven't seen him since. Hua, I just finished my mission and don't have any energy left. I'm also injured. Can you stop telling ghost stories? As they were discussing, a Tiger King battleship suddenly sailed over, and a huge shadow fell from the battleship. After everyone was stunned for a moment, someone finally reacted and said in surprise, "It's Sister Xiaoxue. Quickly inform Big Brother Xinghua." After the snowball landed, its body almost took up half of the yard. It quickly moved inside. Yan Xinghua quickly came out with a look of surprise in his eyes. "Sister Xiaoxue, why did you come here personally? This time, the mission has failed, and we can't find the weight-loss divine herb that can make Goddess Ruobing slim down. But, let's have a good time. Get out, all of you, get out, hurry up." The chubby snowball girl shouted impatiently, as if her heart was burning with anxiety, desperately scolding the crowd. Go out? What do you mean by that? Yan Xinghua did not understand what was going on. The chubby snowball girl's face turned serious, and her facial features immediately twisted together. She roared, I told you all to get out, didn't you hear me? Yan Xinghua, do you need me to repeat myself? A cold aura burst out from her body. She was also a martial arts master. Yan Xinghua was stunned and quickly said, yes, yes. Everyone, come out with me, he shouted. Sister Xiaoxue has something important to do. Under his command, the members of the Ice Cube organization left the courtyard full of doubts. Snowball cast a few runes in the air, which turned out to be a defensive barrier that enveloped the entire small courtyard. It then looked around and said, who invited me here? Come out. I'm already here as promised. She called out a few times, her fat body constantly moving in the courtyard, appearing unusually restless. Yunxiao sighed as he walked out of the void and said, Miss Ruame, we meet again. Jiang Ruame turned her body nimbly and looked at Yunxiao. The anticipation on her face instantly turned into extreme disappointment. A cold chill spread out of her body, and the temperature in the entire courtyard dropped to winter. It's you? You gave that bitch Nalan Jishuan a jade slip to trick me out? Her voice was almost tearing at her vocal cords, suppressing the extreme anger, and her fat trembled under the anger. Lie? Yunxiao chuckled. I really don't like what you're saying, Sister Snowball. Everything I said in the jade slip is true. True? Humph. Jiang Ruame gritted her teeth and said, you said you know Gu Feiyang's pupillary abilities. Why don't you show it to me? Even if it's real, what's the point of using it if you don't have a 7th or 8th grade cultivation base? This was also the reason why she was completely disappointed and even angry when she saw Yunxiao. Even if he really had pupillary abilities, it was impossible for such a young man to have a cultivation base of 7th or 8th tier in the art of sorcery. Yunxiao chuckled. Without saying a word, he teleported several times in front of Jiang Ruame. Teleportation? Teleportation, which can only be performed by 8th tier alchemists. Jiang Ruame was stunned for a moment, then she was ecstatic. She said excitedly, what about eye techniques? Yunxiao's eyes gradually turned blurry, then suddenly turned into a pair of blood moons, looking extremely demonic. Jiang Ruame's body trembled and she lost her spiritual sense in an instant. Her face gradually became dull, as if she had been completely captured. She did not know how long it took before she gradually recovered. In an instant, her heart was filled with unspeakable excitement. Her fat body knelt down and kowtowed repeatedly. Unfortunately, her body was too fat and she couldn't kowtow to the ground. She cried, my lord, you have to help me. I beg you, you are my second parent. Yunxiao's face darkened as he said in a hurry, get up and talk. I've checked your symptoms just now, and I have a general idea of what's going on. I've already tried to eliminate half of the influence left behind by your mother's womb. You can try to circulate your elemental energy and feel it. Jiang Ruame's body trembled, and she could not even bother to stand up. Her fat body knelt on the ground and began to circulate her vital qi to check her body. The expression on her face slowly turned from shock to ecstasy, and then to tears of joy. 2 streams of tears flowed down her face.